Okay, we're going to start. Menachos, the bottom. It's not a competition, it's easy. Good morning. What's the special occasion?
My father's yard.
Oh. Okay. What's the name?
Moshe and Chaim.
I'll dedicate their learning to his merit.
Amen.
The Mishnah begins. Echad minchas chayte. Whether it's a meal offering of someone that committed a sin, who has to bring a carbon mincha, v'echad kol menachos, or any mincha, shekam tzanzar, that a non-kohen did the kmitza, he stuck his 3 fingers in. Oinen, someone that someone passed away within 24 hours, or the first day before the burial. Someone that went to the mikveh, but he needs to wait for nightfall before the vav on the Mishnah on the bottom. Yeah, think about this. Mechusar begadim, or let's say he went to the mikveh. He waited for nightfall because it was impure. But however, he didn't bring the sacrifices that would allow him to then eat from other sacrifices and be involved in the holy things. I said Mechusar begadim, I'm sorry. A kohen that's missing the clothing. Mechusar kippurim, he didn't bring the sacrifices yet. Shlei rachatz yadav v'raglav, he did not wash his hands and feet. You know, the kohen would wash his hands and feet. Orel, let's say he did not have a circumcision. Why wouldn't he have a circumcision? Because his 2 brothers, his older brothers, for hemophilia, they died from from mesoach of machmas mila. We know that it's genetic. Tamei. If he was tamei, this goes back to the beginning. Yoshei, let's say he was sitting down when he did the kmitza. Oimed al gabi kelim, he wasn't standing on the floor, he was standing on top of some vessels that are on the floor, maybe a towel or something. Or al gabi behema, let's say he's on top of an animal when he did the kmitza. They had animals in the temple. They were bringing them for sacrifices, or maybe one that wasn't. He was on top of it. Al gabi ragle chaveri, he was standing on his friend's feet. Puzzle. All of these are invalid. The kmitza is not valid. Kamatz bismal, let's say he did kmitza with his left hand. Puzzle. That's also invalid. Ben Beseir says yachzer, he returns. B'yachzer v'yikmitz b'yamin, and yachzir, he puts it back rather. B'yachzer v'yikmitz b'yamin, and then he does the kmitza with his right hand.
It's a new one or the one they just put in his mouth?
He didn't put it on the mizbeach yet. First you take the kmitza out, and you're supposed to put it into another vessel. The Meseir says, don't bother with that. Put it back in, and just do it again. We're going to see in the Gemara that it's possible Ben Beseira is arguing about everything and saying that all of them could be permissible to do again. If it became tamei, that's another problem. But all the other ones, he's standing on, not on the floor, or all of those things. Let's say he did kmitza, but instead of getting a full fistful, he gets a pebble in there, a gargamelach, or a piece of salt, a kurd levina, or a piece of the frankincense puzzle, because it wasn't full. Because it says anyone that does a kmitza that's too full, that means he doesn't fold his hands all the way back here. It's popping out. You see, it's popping out over here, so he doesn't touch. Why? Because it's so full, he can't touch. Or hayeser, or he does. I'm sorry. Or he does too little. He does too little. The Mishnah is going to explain that he does it just the tips of his fingers instead of going back to the palm. He just does it up there. The Ezu hayeser should come to muvurtz. What does it mean that it's too much? That it's popping out. The chaser should come to brush its place. So what does it mean? It's missing. That he did the kmitza just on the tips of his fingers. He doesn't fill it up enough. Gemara asks the first question. It questions the wording of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that whether it's a mincha of a sin offering, or whether it's or any mincha that was done incorrectly, or for the kmitza was done incorrectly for whatever reason, it's pasul. The Gemara asks, why do you have to say echad minchas chayte v'echad kol menachos? Whether it's a sin offering mincha, or whether it's any mincha, listen to kol menachos. Just say any mincha. Shekom tzanzar v'aynen. That the zar, a non-kayan, did the kmitza, or aynen, or someone whose relative passed away, and that would be enough. Any mincha includes also a sin offering mincha. The Gemara answers, "Le Reb Shimon etzrich." It needs us to tell me according to Reb Shimon. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. Amar Reb Shimon taught. Reb Shimon says, "Bedinhu." Really, logically, shetei minchas chaytetun Hashem and olavayna. That the mincha, the meal offering of someone that committed a sin, either he went into the temple impure, and he doesn't have the funds to bring the big sacrifice, he brings the meal offering, or he was administered an oath that he knows testimony, that he doesn't know testimony, and really he did know testimony, he lied, so he has to bring this karban mincha. It's called the minchas chayte. Really, it should require oil and frankincense as well. It doesn't, but it should. Because he committed a sin, he shouldn't have to pay less than anyone else. Why doesn't it require oil and frankincense? We don't want to give him a fancy sacrifice. He just committed a sin. He's going to come in with all his entourage, with a Cadillac. He's going to show up with a fancy mincha. No. You give him you don't make a big deal about his mincha. Really, when someone eats chaylev, forbidden fat, he has to bring a chatas. He does it by mistake. Really, he should have to bring along the meal and the wine and the oil, the flour, the wine and the oil together with it as well. He doesn't, but really he should. However, he shouldn't lose out. He shouldn't. I'm sorry. Just because he's a sinner, he shouldn't gain by not having to pay for the extra nesachim, for the extra libations, the wine and the oil. Why doesn't it require it? We shouldn't have a fancy sacrifice. He just committed a sin. Taisvus over here asks, the price of a chatas is set. It doesn't pay more anyway. The nesachim are included in that price. It doesn't pay more. He concludes Valach Pirchi, but he doesn't explain why. It sounds like a good question. Okay. Sal Kedai Tachamina. Now the Gemara is explaining. Why do we need to say whether it's a minchas chayte or whether it's any mincha? Just say any mincha that's done incorrectly is possible. So Sal Kedai Tachamina, I could have thought that according to Reb Shimon, Hoyel V'amar Reb Shimon Shlei Karban Mahudar. Reb Shimon does not want a fancy sacrifice for the person that committed a sin. He wants it to be very, very simple and plain. Should not without any pride. Ki kamtzi le psulin. If the kmitza is done by people that are not valid to do the kmitza, we would say that's even worse, which is better for us because we want it to look worse, right? We don't want it to be fancy. So nami tes kasher. It should also be kosher. If you have the important kohen comes in, then that's a fancy sacrifice. That's good. We want this sacrifice to be kosher, even if it's done in a non-fancy way. So maybe it should be kosher even if a zar does it. It's more simple. So kamash malan. That's why it specifies that no, even though it's a sin offering and we try to keep it simple, according to Reb Shimon, still not valid if a zar does it. If so, you gave two examples, Reb Shimon, the karban mincha, minchas chayte, and an animal of chaylev, chatas chaylev. Someone ate forbidden fats, he has to bring, and we said the same thing, maybe it should have nesachim. Hasam nami, over there as well, listen, echad chatas chaylev, echad kol hazvachim, shekibul dam and zar v'aynen. Why over there, when it talks about the sacrifices, not the mincha, the meal offerings, when it talks about the sacrifices, why doesn't it say whether it's a chatas or whether it's any sacrifice? if it was done by a non-kohen, it's puzzle. Over there, all it says is any sacrifices that's done by a non-kohen is puzzle. It doesn't say whether it's a chayte. Why only by the mincha, when really it's the same concept. And we'd say that we need to say it for Reb Shimon. Alma, we see. Kivan detana lekol. That since over there it says all, which is all inclusive. V'loy katani chutz. And it doesn't say with the exception of something. So kulu mashma. It means all of them. So hachanami, you could do the same here. Kivan detana kol. V'loy katani chutz. Since it says all menachos are puzzle if a non-kohen does it. And it doesn't say with the exception of like tani chutz, kula mashma. It means all of them, and that would be good enough. The Gemara says no. It's necessary by the karban mincha to say this. Why? Sal kedai tachamina. I could have thought hayil vukim nelareshad like Reb Shimon, because the first mishnah of the Masechta was not like Reb Shimon. Why was the first mishnah not like Reb Shimon? Reb Shimon holds that a mincha that's brought for the wrong intention, not only is it valid, but the owner doesn't have to bring another one. In the Mishnah says that a mincha that's brought for the wrong intention, it's valid, but the owner has to bring another one. So the first Mishnah did not go according to Reb Shimon. Now we gave 3 answers. 2 of them, because there was a contradiction in Reb Shimon, 2 of them would make that the Mishnah doesn't go like Reb Shimon. One of them would have allowed for the Mishnah to be like Reb Shimon. So, but because the first Mishnah does not go like Reb Shimon, so I could have thought, Sal kedai tachamina hayil v'kim nelareshad like Reb Shimon, Seif and Amid like Reb Shimon. Then I would say over here that this Mishnah doesn't go like Reb Shimon. Why? Because according to Reb Shimon, a chatas chayte should be kosher if it's a sin offering, if a non-kayin did it. Kamash malan, that even according to Reb Shimon, it's not valid. Okay. First of all, Taisva says over here, Taimel Ravashi, Derish Pirkin, Dasi Reb Shimon, Ma'ik Lameima, that the Gemara is only answering according to the two answers in the contradiction of Reb Shimon that didn't allow our Mishnah to go according to Reb Shimon. However, there was one answer there that does allow our Mishnah to go according to Reb Shimon. You didn't resolve this problem according to that other opinion. Also, over here is the interesting thing that there's always a question: why do we have to say opinions that we don't go like? And the Rambam writes about this, and he writes that because someone may show up and say, oh, we go like that opinion, we go like a certain opinion. If we never heard about it, so we'd be all flustered and say, oh, we didn't know about that, and maybe we're doing everything wrong. So over here you have a Reb Shimon, that we're afraid that we would think that our Mishnah doesn't go according to Reb Shimon. So we have to explain that our Mishnah goes even according to Reb Shimon. Because someone could have said, let's say, years down the road, say, oh, we do go like Reb Shimon, a korban mincha, if it's a chatas, it should be acceptable. Say, no, we've already discussed that. We know that it fits even according to Reb Shimon, and it's... Okay. Amar Rav. Rav says, Rav is a first generation Amira. He lives in South Iraq, near the Gulf, in Surah. Shakamat, Zor Shakamatz, a non-kayan that does kmitza. Yachzer. He puts it back. And he does it again. A non-kayan did the kmitza, he redoes it. The Gemara asks, Va'anan pasal tanan. We said that it's invalid. What does it mean he puts it back? My pasal, what does it mean it's invalid? The Gemara answers according to Rav. Pasal ad sheyachzer. It's invalid until he redoes it. Means he can do it again. If so, Hainu ben Beseira. That's the opinion of Ben Beseira. Ben Beseira said that you redo it.
He puts it back in a kohen, has to do it.
Right. So the Gemara says, he's explaining according to Rav what the machlekes is Ben Beseira and the Rabbanan. If the kaimet still exists, that fistful still exists, like Pliga Rabban Malad Ben Beseira. The Rabbanan would agree with Ben Beseira that you can just put it back and redo it. Ki pligi. When do they argue? The chasr kaimetz. When you don't have the kaimetz anymore. Rabbanan sabri lo yavi miteich beisi v'yimaleno. The Rabbanan say you're not allowed to go home. Get more flour and put it back in to fill up the kaimetz that was taken out by a non-kayin. And Ben Beseira sabri yavi miteich beisi v'yimaleno. Ben Beseira says that you're allowed to go home, get more flour and fill it in. Why? Because there's a machlokes here. What makes the mincha holy? Is it the putting it in the vessel, or is it the kmitza? If we say that it's putting it in the vessel, which there are abundance opinion, so now that you took some of it out, it was already established. It was already sanctified as it is. And therefore, when you take some, you can't just add to it as it's already been established. It's already like marked that this is the size of it and this is what it is. You took some out, you lost it. The Ben Beseira holds, no, the kmitza is what sanctifies it. So once the kmitza is done, you can't add. But here the kmitza wasn't done, it was a non-kayin. So you can go add more. It's still not set how much it's going to be. Ihachi, if that's the case, Ben Beseira imer yachzer v'yachzer v'yikmaitz b'yamin. Ben Beseira says that you return the flour. And you do a kmitza again with the right hand. Ben Beseira yachzer v'yavim miteich beise v'yamaleno v'yachzer v'yikmaitz b'yamin. It should have said, not that he puts it back in and then he does it again with his right hand. It should have said, puts it back in. Or not, he puts it back in. He returns, he goes to his house. He brings more, and then he does kmitza again. It should have. It didn't add in the main point, which is that you're allowed to go home and get more flour. So Kikam Rav ben Beseira. The Gemara responds now that Rav that says that it's kosher if a zar does kmitza, that you just put it back. That's talking about Ben Beseira's opinion, not the Rabbanan's opinion. The Gemara asks Pshita. I need Rav to tell me that what Ben Beseira holds. We thought that Rav was saying the rabbi's opinion. They had a big chiddush. The rabbi said it's puzzle. Rav says that it's kosher, even according to the rabbis. Why is that? Because you were able to put it back in. The rabbi said it's puzzle when you lost it. But now we're saying that the Rav is talking about Ben Beseira, who always said that it's kosher. So the Gemara said, that's obvious. I don't need Rav to say that. Mahu the tema. What might you have said? Ad kan like kamach Ben Beseira b'smal. That Ben Beseira only said that it's kosher if you did it with the left hand. Aval b'shar psulim lai. You see, you notice that Ben Beseira says at the end. It says kamatz b'smal psula. Ben Beseira yachsher. It sounds like he's only discussing the left hand. But who says he's talking about that? All the other mess ups are also valid. Who says that he says that? Comes along Rav and tells me that no, Ben Beseira is talking about even if it was a zar, it's still kosher. That's a chiddush. Kamash Malon, that's the chiddush of Rav. Gemara says Maishna small. What's the difference to the left hand that we should say that it's valid? Probably because because on Yom Kippur, when you do the incense, you need to use both hands. So because we find, this is a common thing in Kachim, that if you ever find that you're able to use that in any situation, right, then b'di'evet it's kosher. So because on Yom Kippur you're allowed to use your left hand, so therefore, even though really you should be using your right hand, but because we find somewhere that it is valid to use the left hand, so at least b'di'evet, after the fact, we should say that it's still valid. Why? Because on Yom Kippur, when you do the Ketores, you need two fistfuls. You need to use the left hand as well. You can't have two right hands. This would be explaining why does Ben Beseira allow the left hand, because we have a special reason to allow the left hand, but I could have thought that other things would not be like that. Right?
But would the Rabbanan allow b'di'evet?
No, the Rabbanan argue. The Rabbanan say it's possible. This is only a logic for Ben Beseira. Okay. Now we're saying that Rav said that Ben Beseira allows all invalidations, all things that are according to Ben Beseira. So we're asking, that's a chiddush of Rav. Why does Ben Beseira allow the left hand? Because he has a reason for it. The same reason would apply to the other things, as you'll see. Zarnami ashkechan lachsher b'shchita. You see that a zar is a non-kayan. A non-kayan can do the shchita. So we should say that it's obvious. If Ben Beseira allows the left hand to be valid after the fact, he should also allow a non-kayan that does it, because we find that just as the left hand could be used in one situation, a non-kayan could be used in one situation, the shechita. So the Gemara says, no, don't count the shechita as part of this. You're mixing it in, it has nothing to do with this. Shechita lav avaydahi. The slaughtering of an animal is not the avayda. V'loi, it's not an avayda. Varma Rab Zeira Amarav. Rab Zeira says the name of Rav. That's interesting. The Zeiri, Rav argued. Okay, no, it's possible, but because I'm just so curious if there's. Do you have another text here? Do you have a note next to that? No, okay. Okay. Reb Zeira says the name of Rav. It's possible. Shchitas para bizar psula. That if the para aduma is shechted by a non-kayan, it's pasul. And v'amar Rav Allah, and Rav says about it, Elazar v'chuka ksivba, that it says the word Elazar, that means it needs to be the kayan, and it says chuka, which means whenever it says chuka, it means that it's a statute that means that if you don't do it like that, it's ma'akiv. Ma'akiv means it makes it invalidates it even after the fact, that there's no it's not like just a din l'chatchila that this is the way you should do it. It's ma'akiv. It's not valid. So we see that the shechita needs to be done with a kayan, or at least that the shechita is an avayda. Gemara says shani para the kachi bedek habayisi. Don't compare this. The paraduma is not even a karban. It belongs to the temple. Kachi bedek habayis. Gemara says v'lav kol dechenu. Is it not a kol shkein? Is it not a kal v'chaymer? Kachi bedek habayis boy kahuna. If the kachi bedek habayis need kahuna, if it's just temple property, you need to use a kayan. Kachi mizbeach loy boy kahuna. Kachi mizbeach, is it not a kol shkein? Is it not a kal v'chaymer that for sure you should need kahuna? And nevertheless, if a non-kayan shechts, it's valid in other cases. So therefore, that should be a proof that a non-kayan does kmitza, b'diavad it should work. You're comparing this thing that you need a kayan to shech the paraduma, and you're thinking that means that shchita is an avoida because it's restricted over there. It has nothing to do with an avoida. The fact is that you need a kayan for other things as well, and it's nothing to do with avoida. Kayanim do other things. They wear different hats. When it comes to looking at leprosy, who needs to be there? A kayan. The lava vaida, that's not an avoida. Ubay kahuna, and you still need a kayan. So the fact that in one case you need a kayan to do the shechita, that doesn't make shechita into avoida. And so therefore, what we're left with is Rav is telling me a chiddush that I would have thought that Ben Beseira argues about. That Ben Beseira agrees with the Rabbanan, with the first opinion, that a non-kayan that shechs is not valid. Comes along Rav and tells me, no, it is, according to Ben Beseira. V'neilef mi bama, but we could learn from a bama, because on a bama, you don't need a kayan. On a private altar, which is acceptable at certain times, right? You don't need a kayan. Maybe we'll say you can't learn from a bama. But it was taught in the brisa that you can. How do you know that if part of the sacrifice left, that you brought it back in? You bring it on the altar, which was not supposed to be brought on the altar because it had a psul. It was yoitze. It left the temple courtyard. But how do you know that that you don't take it off the altar? Because we find an example where if it leaves the temple, it's kosher. Where is that example? A bama, a private altar, left the temple. It's not in the temple at all. And nevertheless, it's valid during the times that you're allowed to use a bama in between the tabernacle and the temple. So therefore, we should be able to see from this that a non-kayan is allowed to do certain services. If he can do certain services, then if a non-kayan does the kmitza, it should be kosher, at least b'diavad, at least that you should be able to do it, redo it. And that would be Ben Beseira's opinion. And then Rav is not telling me anything that Ben Beseira agrees to that. Or argues with the rabbis about. So the Gemara says no. we don't really learn from a bama. Tana azois teres ha'oila samachle. We really learn from a verse. The verse says that these are the laws of an oila, which teach me that any sacrifice that's invalid, that became invalid in the temple, that goes on the altar, you don't take it off. Not because you find that by a bama it's valid. So therefore, that's a special reason why you don't take it off. It's not because that we're learning from a bama. So if we don't learn from a bama, so therefore we really have no source that a non-kayan can do anything. So we wouldn't know that if a non-kayan does kmitza, that it should be valid. We don't know that. So therefore Rav is telling me a chiddush. Elatayma min and Rav. How do we know this? Because Rav told it to me. Halav hachi, if not for Rav, hava mina b'shar psul pashal ben b'seira. I would say that by other invalidations, Ben Beser says that it's invalid. But it was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Yosi bar Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon. Rabbi Yosi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, Aimrim, Machshir Haya Ben Beser, B'kal Psul Kula. That Ben Beser says that it's kosher by all the things. So why do we need Rav to say this? Taisvus asks over here that this is a strange question because Rav's allowed to say something that was taught in a brayso. Vitanya, and it was taught in a brayso. V'kamatz misham. You do the kmitza from there. What does it mean from there? Mimakim shiragli azor this. From the place where the zor is allowed to stand. Where is the zor allowed to stand? The non-kayan. Where's he allowed to stand? There's 11 amas where he's allowed to stand in the entranceway of the temple. Okay. And Ben Beseira Aimer Minayin shin come to the small sheyachzer v'yichmitz b'yamin. Tamalayim v'kamatz misham. Ben Beseira learns from this that if the kmitza was done with the left hand, that you just put it back in and then you do it again with the right hand. How do we know that that's correct? Tamalayim v'kamatz misham mimakum shekamatz kvar, from the place that the kmitza was done already. Okay. Ukivan the cross damak sivba, and since the verse tells me that you redo a kmitza, v'kamatz misham, you do a kmitza from there, which there tells me that maybe you did the kmitza once before already. So mali small, mali sharp sulim. Why specifically the left hand? I do the kmitza, I redo kmitza. Maybe any invalidation I could redo. So why do I need Rav to say it? I know it from these rabbis, and I know it from the way that Ben Beseira learns it. He learns it from a verse, v'kamatz misham, that it shouldn't be specifically the left hand. We're asking, Rav told us that if a non-kayan does the kmitza, that it could be redone. So we said that's a big chiddush according to the rabbis, because they seem to argue with Ben Beseira. He said, no, he's not talking about the rabbis, he's talking about Ben Beseira. He says, for Ben Beseira, you don't have to tell that to me. He says, well, I could have thought that Ben Beseira is only talking about the left hand, not talking about a non-kayan. A left hand you could redo, a non-kayan maybe you can't redo. So we're trying to prove that we know without Rav that Ben Beseira holds that even a non-kayan you could redo. You can put it back and redo it. Rather, Rav is teaching me this. That even if you did the kmitza, and then you put it into, see, the way it works is, you do the kmitza from the mincha, then you have to put it into a separate vessel. You have to put it into a separate vessel, and then that vessel is brought to the altar. So Rav is telling me that according to Ben Beseira, even if the kmitza was done and put into a new vessel, you can still redo it. And this is excluding from what these other Tanoim taught. Tanya Rabbi Yosi ben Yasin. What's this really supposed to be? No, it's the Tanya Rabbi Yosi ben Yasin. Jason. Rabbi Yehuda Hanachta Imamru. And Rabbi Yehuda the baker say, when do we say this? that Ben Beseira says that it's valid. Shekamat v'le kiddush. That's only if you did the kmitza, but you didn't put it into another vessel. Aval kiddush. But if you did put it into a second vessel, puzzle, then even Ben Beseira agrees that it's no good. Rav is telling me a huge chiddush that even if you put it into a second vessel, it is good. Bikadamri, there are those that say kamatz in kiddush loy. That if you did the kmitza, yes, that is good. But if you put it into another vessel, it's not good. Kaman, who does that go like? Kahani Tanoi. It goes like those Tanoim, which is Rabbi Yossi ben Yasin, Rabbi Yehuda and Nachman. Ula'afuke mi Tanakama. And it's coming to exclude the Tanakama in the Brisa that argues with Rabbi Yossi ben Yasin and Rabbi Yehuda and Nachman that would say that it is valid. That opinion would go according to Rav. Okay. Maskefla Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman has a question. My kosabri hani tanoi. Those tanoim that say that the kmitza you can redo, but if you put it into a vessel you can't redo it. What is their opinion? I kmitza psulin avaydehi. Is the kmitza a service? Afagav dlayovid lamatan keli. Then it should be invalid even if they didn't put it into another vessel. Why are they putting the other vessel here as part of this? I kmitza psulin lav avaydehi. If the kmitza is not an avayda, so ki avad lamatan keli my havi. If they put it into another vessel, what did they do? Because nothing was done.
Nothing was done in terms of...
Because the kmitza wasn't done.
Right.
Because how are we going to view when something is done not correctly? Amar Rav Nachman Loilam Avaydira. So Rav Nachman explains, because this opinion is like somewhere in the middle here. How do they view an incorrect kmitza? Really, when the kmitza is done by people that should not be doing it, it really is a service. However, but the service isn't complete until it's put into a vessel. And some commentators take this out. If that's the case, when you put the kaimitz back into the first place, back into the first one, so that's also considered a vessel. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take it out, put it into another vessel. We were asking, taking it out, is that an avodah or not? When people are not, if a kohen does it, then of course it's good. But if someone that's not supposed to do it does it, is that considered a kmitza? So we said, well, it is, but it's not completed yet. It's in the middle. So he says, okay. So he takes it out. He doesn't put it into a vessel. He puts it back in. But this is a vessel. Why isn't this a vessel? And he put it back